Okay, welcome Scott Miller to the Biodigital Convergence Transhumanist Report. Honored to have you here, man. You're a great man. You're a man that stands on principle, right? And you stood up against what I call the health fascist, C19 beast system. So, a lot of respect for people like yourself. You sacrificed a lot, and you have a really interesting story. So I'm glad we can take the time to kind of capture that today. I do personally believe there will be a day when the science will hold these people accountable for what they've done because that's all they preached to beginning, and it's a fitting what I call retribution is what'll come their way. It will come. It's coming. But okay, so Scott Miller is a pediatrician. He's the author of The Most Dangerous Man in Washington, a gripping memoir of courage, conviction, and the moral cost of doing the right thing when the world punishes those who dare to care. A former pediatric physician assistant and founder of Miller Family Pediatrics in Washington State, Scott became nationally known during the COVID-19 pandemic for being the lone voice of dissent, defying state mandates, fighting against hospital protocols, and aggressively administering early treatment protocols when few others in the country would. Scott has received thousands of messages and letters of support, which encapsulate who he is, a man who feels deeply, who cares wholly, and who refuses to look away from the suffering of others. His empathy is matched only by his courage, while many in his position kept silent in the face of such overwhelming opposition. Scott chose to stand his ground. He has become a voice for the voiceless, advocating not for just his patients, but also challenging a medical system that prioritizes bureaucracy over humanity. Scott Miller is without a doubt a polarizing figure. To the medical establishment, he's a dangerous renegade who defied medical norms. To thousands of patients and families, he is a hero who dared to save lives, treat those left without care, and speak truth to power. Yeah, that's great. In 2021, Scott's license was suspended for refusing to conform to state-sanctioned protocols. The state of Washington called his actions misconduct. His patients called him a miracle. A fierce advocate for medical freedom, Scott's journey has been one of loss and faith, grit and grace. His family endured not just media attacks, but homelessness and unimaginable sacrifice after his license was stripped away. Yet through it all, he remained a voice for the voiceless, those harmed, silenced, and abandoned by a broken medical system. Today, Scott continues to speak out on behalf of those injured, medical whistleblowers, and people who believe that truth should still matter in medicine. So again, yeah, The Most Dangerous Man in Washington is more than a memoir. It's a testament to what one person can do when they choose faith over fear and action over silence. Yeah, so that's really well written. I really like that. That's a great. I mean, that's excellent, right? And I'm of 100% conviction that you are on the right side of history, and I want to personally thank you for doing these things because it's people like yourself that has helped really educate like people that do have questions about everything that rolled out, especially in Canada here too, right? I mean, it's one of the worst places, like Canada, Australia, like really, really hardcore. I call it health fascist, like like
Right.
basically you can't question, you're not allowed to question anything, right, when it comes to these things, and that's a big problem, right? How can science progress if you have that kind of an attitude? But again, yeah, welcome Scott to the show.
Thank you. And that was
Yeah,
that
no,
was actually written. That was written by a vaccine injured friend of mine that
really.
has been part of that had been they've been abandoned, and she and I met through a just through one of the groups that I was in that she belonged to. And when I heard her story, I was so shocked by it that I finally interrupted. I said, "Hold on, I need you to tell me more about this." And I gave her my cell. And after that
Mm.
that next space, she and I spoke for about 6 hours. I mean, deep into the night as she was sharing her journey, and she invited me onto one of her groups of vaccine injured. And the
Yeah,
next week, I spent about 13 hours on an X space listening to these stories of people around the world who they were the voiceless. They had no one to
yeah.
advocate for. So I joined up with their group, and so we became really good friends. And so that was her I said, Kat,
Wow.
I could write a bio for me. I'm just a regular guy that was helping people. And so that was her testimony for what I've done.
No, it's excellent. Like I think that's it resonates as being very, very truthful, right? Like when I read it, like it just there's something within me that resonates strongly with those words. And okay, but let's just talk about your current situation right now. So because I guess you let me know that in the last couple of days, right? You had a hearing in front of the administrative judge for the Alaska Medical Board. You're attempting to get your medical license like instated. So what was the outcome of that? We're kind of diving right in. This is what's going on
Yeah.
like right now, right in your life. So
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
what's
I'm in
like what did they
Alaska right
say?
now.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, no, I man,
so
I love Alaska. I've been there. It's a great state. You know.
what's interesting, and there's no time to go into it, but what the Washington Medical Commission did was they, and if you could, like, we know the corruption, but if you could see it at a micro level of how they manipulated things and
Yeah.
it inhibited my ability for any type of um, just judicial review of the decision made by the Washington Medical Commission. And what
Mm,
they did is they did a permanent revocation of my license, and all of the accusations or charges against me they determined to be findings of fact, which I didn't challenge, which means that I accepted those to be findings of fact. So we have to start there. So everything that the
okay.
Washington Commission said about me, that I
Mhm.
lied on an application, that I was disruptive, that my utterances in the community were evil, that, I mean, like all of these things, I was practicing below the standard of care. The care I was giving was harming people. I mean, just on and on and on.
Mhm.
Those were found to be true. So for this hearing, I couldn't challenge any of those. Like I basically
Okay.
had to accept those as fact. So I was pro se, so I represented myself. So I picked a number of witnesses that directly worked with me,
Mhm.
or people in the community that I felt like pastors in the community, because the the fear, from a medical community, a medical board is, well, here's this guy that's been painted as
Mhm.
a, a reckless, intransigent, substantive evil, all these things, a danger to the community. So since I couldn't do a collateral defense against those accusations, I brought people in that knew me personally, that worked with me, and
Yeah.
had them testify as to what their findings of fact were. And it's the first time in 4 years since the emergency suspension of my license, all the hearings. So Wednesday was the first time in 4 years that actual factual things were said about me that went into the public record. And that was my whole
Good.
purpose of fighting so hard to be sitting in front of that administrative judge. It's the first time that any semblance of truth is now in the public record.
Well, I mean, and that's a breakthrough, right? Like, thank God for that. I mean, it's I mean, I'm happy for you, right? Because I mean, I know the legal world is man, yeah, you got to be using your head, and I call it kind of a game, right? But you need to know all the legal terminology and how it all works, right? And I get a little bit of it, and I'm really interested actually in that world. But man, yeah, you're dealing with a lot of sharks there too, and it's just yeah.
It took
I mean,
7 months for me to get to this, 7 months legally to get to this point, because the state didn't
okay.
even want me to have the opportunity. So they
Of
had a
course not.
motion
Yeah.
just to dismiss
Yeah.
it. So I was able to beat the state's motion to be able to sit there. So I don't know what the outcome is going to be. It's going to take a little while, but regardless, to even getting to the point of sitting in front of the board for somebody in my position that had a permanent revocation, it's never happened. So to be able to beat the state, to be able to have the opportunity on Wednesdays, I consider it an absolute blessing.
Yeah, I do too. And actually that's kind of a little bit of a sign of a shift within the legal system, right? That I mean, there's so many people out there talking about all this stuff too. It just from different angles, if I can put it that way, right? From different points of knowledge. But I mean, this is like it's a system, right? So the judge is bound by the system and how that works. But at the same time, like you can't just dismiss evidences, right? You can't just dismiss science. If you have a real case, right, and you have like evidence to submit to the courts, like I don't understand how they can just dismiss it because you're a danger to the government narrative is what it is. It's more like because we decided that this is going to be the mitigation protocols. And I mean, like I'm just having an open conversation. It's like, but if the conclusions you've reached are wrong, like the part of the subject of our conversation is when consensus is wrong, right? Like a lot of people that are on the side of truth suffer. You will. It's happened all throughout history, right? People
Yep.
have paid a big price for standing on the side, I would say the right side, because the easy path is just to conform what I call to the general consensus. Now, it's not always wrong, but I would say with COVID, it definitely was wrong with what,
And
yeah, how it was
it's
done.
only the easy path at first because tyranny
Yeah,
catches up, right? It's if we're not
100%.
looking,
Yeah.
so it's easy until it be. I have to. So people kept saying this is hard. I mean, from in 2020 with the mask mandate, social distancing, and people would always say to me, "This is so hard." I'm like, "Hard? We don't even know what hard is. These are recommendations. I consider these suggestions. I didn't follow a single mandate. I didn't shut my clinic down. I didn't make anyone wear masks when my office manager put up the cover your cough paraphernalia. I'm like,
Oh,
under
yeah.
no circumstances are we going to put anything in our office that even looks like we know what's going on in the insanity around us. I didn't follow any of it because I didn't have to.
Hmm.
We were told to. And I kept
But you
saying,
just,
like, we don't even know what hard is yet.
I agree. Like,
Well,
I totally agree. Yo,
Canadians, it was different. You guys, I would look up to look and see what was happening just north of us, and I would think, okay, that's hard. What you guys just
but yeah, under Trudeau, oh man, like these guys were just, I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's New Zealand was pretty bad too, right? And it just, and of course, like people, it really created an uprising because it was total government overreach. It's one thing if you have a choice, right? But then when the mandates rolled out and people are starting to lose their jobs and all these medical dictations for things that actually did not work. There was three main lies to me. I look at it three main lies. They said, get the jab and you'll be immune. That to me, that's provably false. And they
yeah.
said, oh, you won't transmit SARS-CoV-2. That's provably false too. And then they said, like, you won't get infected. There's another thing that, and I have the quotes and the people that have said it, all these people in positions of power, and there's zero accountability because they used those statements to justify like the actions they took. But it's like they've never been held accountable for the
Well,
error of those.
the lies. I mean, those three lies are later on. The first set of lies were, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and then from
Oh
that,
yeah,
that
yeah.
the lies that there's such thing as an essential and non-essential human being. That's a lie,
There was
and
that too. Yeah,
that
that's right.
social distancing is going to do anything to prevent viral spread, and that a random mask from a grocery store is going to do anything to prevent
Well,
contracting an illness. I mean, it's on and on and on. It started with kind of the things that were easy for people to do, right? It's like we can be
yeah,
patriot. All I have to do is stay inside, or all I have to do is not reopen my business. I can do that, right? I can do that to save my neighbor's life. I can do that. So is this
yeah.
patriotic push and and the penalties for going against it. My wife would say to me, Scott, what happens if they come in and fine you? And I'm like, I'll pay the fine or I'll fight it. Well, what
Hmm.
happens? I'm like, I don't know. If that happens, I'll deal with it, but I'm not going to worry about what if when
Yeah.
my job is to take care of the families and the children in my community and to serve them. The best way I can serve them is by being here and telling them the science and the truth that I see directly to them without being covered up, without being afraid to give hugs and hold their children. I need them to see somebody engaging in humanity
Hmm.
with normalcy.
It just amazes me that yeah, the fear didn't take hold of you because that's essentially what I think struck the hearts of most people, and they just complied. Like, but you just yeah.
I figured out how to treat it in mid-March. And
Okay,
so
but let's yeah, like okay, so let's just hit question number one, like because basically this is kind of tying into what some of the things you're already saying. Yeah, because what ultimately like cause you to oppose like these C-19 mitigation protocols, right? Because, we all thought initially, well, the government's going to roll out things that are going to be helpful. So yeah, what triggered like this is not right. Like this is like why did you initially like oppose? What created the opposition in you anyway? I
The
guess.
initial thing when Fauci said there's nothing we can do, there's no treatments, right? Not cures, there's
Okay.
simply no treatment. There's no treatment. And you know, that can't make sense. It shouldn't make sense to anyone who's practiced medicine, that's studied immunology, that's just it's
Okay.
that spent their life in that space. And my wife was a labor and delivery nurse for 21 years, and she
Hmm.
I was kind of hemming and hawing about this, and she said, "Well, why don't you figure out how to treat it?" And which is kind of a bold statement, right? And she said,
Yeah.
"Think about what you've done in the pediatric community, where I was seeing some of the most complex patients." And she said, think about the process that you used to understand how to help these children that nobody else has been able to help."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, I can do that." So I started diving into SARS and MERS and H1N1 and just looking for certain commonalities. And
Hmm.
in the process of doing that, I found a paper out of Italy on March 15th. I think it was printed on March 11th of 2020. I found it on March 15th, and it said COVID pneumonia and the melatonin connection. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So I
Hmm.
opened it up, and it was in Italian. And I'm like, I'm not going to say, but it had translate. So I hit translate. And I spent the next 2 hours reading through this article, mind absolutely blown. First of all, I didn't know any of the words. I didn't know what viriporins or furin cleavage. I don't know any of
Right.
this
Yeah.
stuff.
Like so you had to learn the terminology. Yeah.
Early
Yeah.
on, then we hit to the data where no children in China, no children under 10 were affected. In Italy, and looking at the reasons why, right? Like children
Hmm.
have 9 times the amount of melatonin that the elderly do. And then it's talking about how the spike protein binds to the ACE. Like it's going through the specific scientific aspects of how it's creating the disease state, how it gets into the cell, how it enters the nucleus. I'm like, what?
Hmm.
What am I reading? My mind was absolutely blown away. And I finished that paper, and I looked at there's like 102 references. So I spent the next 2 weeks. I had papers everywhere. It's like this big board of
Yeah.
mapping out all of the mechanisms with which, like how melatonin inhibits all of these viral pathways, very potent immunomodulatory hormone. We think about it for sleep, but it's
Hmm.
not. It's way more powerful, or vitamin D. And I know I'm talking too fast. So so I looked at this, and I thought, well, let's see. Let's see if some of these things are beneficial. And just prior to that, I had some adults coming in that were difficulty to breathe. They had been to the ER. They're like a week and a half, 2 weeks in, no improvement. And I thought, well, let's try some things just because they were there. So this is mid-February, and I gave them budesonide steroid nebulized treatment. So they got the mask on, breathing in the steroid.
Hmm.
And I told them, you're not going to notice anything right away, but maybe a few hours later, you'll notice a difference. It'll help to open up your airway. And I put them on like a couple asthma medications just to see. By the next day, I got a phone call, or our clinic got a phone call from one of the gentlemen. He's like, "Yeah, I can breathe again. I feel great." I'm like, "What?" Like it didn't make any sense at the time. Then about a month later, and we saw a few of those adults. And as more and more data was coming out about COVID, I talked to my office manager. I'm like, I think those parents that we saw had COVID, because it was fitting kind of exactly what
Right.
we were hearing.
The symptoms.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. And so when the antibody tests came out, we actually called them and asked if we could get them tested, and sure enough, they had it. So there was that anecdotal component where I realized we had already treated adults with COVID. And then all of this data that was coming out that was confirming some of those pathways. And so I looked at Shelley, and I said, I, I'm not sure, but I think we're good. I don't. There's no reason to be afraid. Because I had some trepidation. I wasn't insane. I mean, I was very, mm, I had my, I don't just blindly jump into things, but I look at it as the Holy Spirit directed me to enough information very early on for me to be comfortable and confident with presenting myself to my clinic, to my staff, to my family, and to the patients in my community in the manner that I did. And I shared that information with every single family, and I told them to share it with everyone they know, their church group, their neighbors. Let's just get this mass dissemination of information out to our community.
Mhm. So okay, so you found okay, so this gets into question number two about like what you actually experienced, working as a pediatrician and some of the like protocols that are or you tried some things out and you were seeing that you were getting some results, right? Like you were actually seeing success in the way that you were doing things, which wasn't in compliance with government protocols. But see, one thing I don't understand is like why should the government, it's kind of like, why should the government tell a mechanic how to change like brakes on a rotor? Or like, just something like you went to, medical school, right? So that you can practice
Yeah, correct.
medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, just, I don't understand why they figure it's like, okay, there's only one solution. It's only ours, right? And it's just, this
Well,
is what it is.
they didn't have a solution, right? Their solution is there isn't one. And more to your point, what would be interesting is if they told mechanics that
Yeah,
that were putting brakes on or doing something, and
yeah,
they were very successful doing it, and the government said what you're doing is actually not successful. In fact, it's damaging to the vehicle. Here's what we actually want you to do, and then you'd
yeah,
have to look. Wait, hold on. So what you're saying is everything that we've been doing, and we have evidence that this is
yeah.
really a very successful way of doing it. And then, a year later, they're like, whoa, you're wrong.
Yeah. It just I think that's one of the main issues where the overreach really kicked in. And the question is, there's 100 answers to this question, but I say it rhetorically is, you got to really think about like what's really going on here, right? Because I don't understand why government feels the need to tell doctors that have spent, I don't know, 10 years studying or like how to treat their patients when it's like I just never really understood that. Like because it's like most politicians have absolutely. I know you have medical officials and health authorities, but oof, I don't know. I really had an issue with that. It just,
It's because it wasn't about treating. I mean, we know this. I mean,
yeah, I
obvious.
know,
And
yeah, yeah,
we knew this fairly early on that this was about just plain and simple. I mean, in the U.S., it was about two things. When Barack Obama gave a speech, it was a congressman who had died, and it was like June or I think it was July of 2020, and he said that it's not safe to go to the voting booth. We need to do mail-in ballots. I heard that speech and I was like, uh-oh, this is the fear component was about control and how do we control information. And then when you get to the politicization of hydroxychloroquine and later ivermectin, you cannot roll out those injections if you have effective treatments. It's you can't do it.
that's right.
So
Yeah, yeah, you're refreshing my memory. Yeah,
anything that had to do
right.
with benefit, and if you look at I don't even like the billions, it's not probably trillions of dollars when with the
Yeah,
implementation of things like remdesivir and baricitinib and these EUA experimental
mhm,
use authorization medications in the hospitals, and
yeah.
then the rollout of the shots. You're looking at you know as I was going through it, and it's weird. It was a weird dichotomy. I was aware of it, which meant I was aware of the fact that I was aware that facts won't matter. That
Isn't
nothing I
that
was doing.
unreal? Like, isn't that like I love how you said that because it's like here we are. in supposedly this advanced civilization, and then basically, yeah, that's kind of what you're getting out of it too. It's like it actually, like talking to people like you, really opened up my mind on how you're better off to just say, I don't know, until you've actually done some research. And I'm not like you really have to be careful how you draw your conclusions. That's one thing I've learned about like you mentioned anecdotal situations. I get that. I understand the terminology, and you got to learn the terminology for one. And just understanding how companies reach their conclusions. Like, why are you saying this is safe and effective? Well, show me your work. Right? Like, I mean, some people question it. Well, what are you talking about? Oh, well, here it is. But yeah, but you didn't do that, And then all of a sudden, it's like you see how the house of cards just starts falling apart. And at least
Or
that's,
show us your data, and we're like, okay, in
yeah,
75 years, right? In 75
yeah,
years,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. It's a good refresher. Exactly. Like, I mean, why, if you've done your homework properly, that would be everywhere, all over Main Street, like everywhere. But the thing is like it's the illusion that we did. See, that's the deception of it all. It's like, oh, we did it. Really? Well, some people are asking, well, show us the data, right? It shouldn't be an issue. Here it is. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
public. We did our work. We did a good job. But see, that's not the case. And like you just, yeah, it's a refresher, right? It's and
Well, I had to do that. I had to do that refresher leading up to the hearing because
yeah,
I needed
yeah.
I needed my witnesses. I said, I need you, and I
Wow.
apologize for this. I need you to go back into a time that you've been so desperate to forget. That
Yeah,
time where
yeah.
fear, that time of feeling helpless and
It just,
hopeless, and remind the medical board, the Alaska Medical Board, what it was really like in the state of Washington, and for them to share what, as somebody that was considered, like I was called, the title of the book isn't made up. That's what I was called. And so
yeah, I believe you.
that was like, I can't make that. I mean, I could, but I didn't have to.
No.
And so I had them going back and sharing. Yeah. It's so a number of them have read the book, and some of them said, I had a couple people that told me I haven't been able to get through it yet because it's like,
I bought
fortunately
it.
there's
Yeah, yeah,
funny, but they're like, you're bringing me back into a place that was really hard as a provider to get through. Um,
yeah.
but it's, you know, it's, it's funny as I think, as I was writing this book one of a series, because there's just too much information. Um,
Okay.
but I laid out, for anybody that's like like they heard this interview and they said, yeah, but really, when you go through the book, it's just the stories that I personally experienced, the way that
That's
I was
good.
navigating through it,
Yeah,
and then the patient experiences, and how they were dealing with being left without care, being left without hope, going into, and then I would come into their homes. I mean, they're real stories, and they're pretty fun.
yeah.
I think it's a fun book, but you can't get to the end of it and go, well, he's lying. You
No.
can't, like, because there's
It's
they're
your accounting. Yeah,
real stories, right? And it's my
yeah,
experiences in the clinic and in the community with my family, and how we navigated, these very difficult times. And it's funny because in the early portions of the story, I got in so much trouble by the Washington Medical Commission for not following the CDC guidelines. Like, do you
yeah.
advise your patients to? And I said, well, I advise them to follow the CDC guidelines, and unless they can't, because no child is going to be able to appropriately put a mask on and not touch the front of it, and then have to go and wash their hand for 20 seconds and then reapply it, right? Like, you have to wear personal protective
Mhm.
equipment properly. No one was doing it. So
No.
so it's like, so
Well,
I it's like, I
like,
advise, if you're going to do it how the CDC says, but if you can't, then just ignore it. It's an all or none.
but if they're guidelines, like guidelines are guidelines, right? Like
Well,
it's
there's
so
guidelines for the acceptable way of wearing PPE, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
legitimate. That's a legitimate thing. But if you
sure.
can't follow the guidelines, it's not like, listen, if you're in surgery and you drop your scalpel and you pick it up off the floor and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm going to reuse it because we don't have a lot of scalpels. That's not proper use, right? Like,
No,
that's
yeah, exactly. No, and that's a good point. Yeah. no, that I mean, yes, it's like it's a real shame what happened. Like it really is. For me, like I want to be able to trust the medical establishment, but I can't anymore. Like I after this, after COVID-19, it obviously it's not that everything that's said is wrong, but like I definitely, if it's any kind of product you want me to put within my body, then I want to see your work if I'm even going to consider it, right? I have
This
to,
would
yeah.
this would be my challenge. Find one thing they said that was actually right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah.
it's not that everything they said wasn't wrong, but you find me one thing
Okay.
they said once we got into it. You find me one thing
Yeah.
they said was right, or if it was wrong, that they adjusted like before
The
like
goalposts, yeah,
2023,
they moved
right?
them. Yeah.
So they were
And
wrong. Like even with the changing goalposts, they were wrong with every single thing. And it wasn't. This wasn't. You know, I don't have a word for the like trying to pick a word to describe what this wasn't a tragedy. Like the tragedy is a plane crash. This was such a
yeah.
diabolical like
Yeah.
evil that our world
Well,
has never seen.
yeah, and it worked. Like it for the most part. Like it I mean, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it it's like almost like democidal medical what do you call it? Genocide, if you will. If you actually understand the jabs, and that's kind of a little bit about number three. I call it C19 injectable holy water. I think that's a great way to describe it, even though I think the complete opposite of it. But that's the way that it's pushed on you. Drink the Kool-Aid, don't ask questions. You're not a doctor. And this is the mentality. Like it's like, what are you talking about? I remember the mainstream media. Like I remember them saying, like, you have a 99.99. And I'm like, why would I ever go get a injection? Like I thought that to myself right off the bat. Like, I mean, why is everyone freaking out over this stuff? Like, I worked through the entire quote unquote pandemic anyway. Like nothing changed for me. I mean, when I was driving to work, it was fantastic. There was no one on the road. Like, it was just like me and like, wow. Like, I mean, everyone's just gone. And I just could not understand. And I guess for me, part of it too, I, I, I'm not afraid of death. Like, not that I want to die, but it's just, I just don't have this, like, I don't live in fear, right? I don't live in fear because I just don't. It's not that, I'll do something stupid or anything like that, but I just don't live under this extreme sense
Well,
that I
and
have to.
let me on that. But when you're in the
Sure,
car,
yeah.
do you wear your seatbelt?
Yes.
Sure, right? Because
Yeah.
you're also thoughtful, right? You're not like, I'm going to wing it. And if I get in
Yeah.
a crash, you use thoughtful precautions when you're
Yeah.
doing different things, right? If you're
Sure, yeah.
getting to do things where you should have gloves on, you put gloves on. So it's not just when you're saying that's not just being reckless about not being, it's just the
Sure.
way they were telling us to go about it
Well,
was
well,
in a manner that was so destructive to our psyche, it was destructive to our economy, it was just the destruction to our children's mental health and their
yeah.
education.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. Like, because come on, like if they remember, I remember the mainstream media, okay, like mainstream media saying that like the survival rate for someone like most of us was like 99.9. Like, so what's the problem? Like what, like, I mean, if just say they said, oh, it's only 60% or something like that, then maybe a person would be, oh, what really? Like, but then it wouldn't work anyway because you'd be like, well, people aren't dying, right? But anyway,
So
it,
may I comment on that really quick?
of course,
This,
yeah,
this is the thing that I tried to disseminate to everyone
yeah.
is it's not if I always tested, but not with the PCR. I had the rapid
Okay.
test. And the reason that I aggressively recommended testing, especially during that time, is because it's still a biological weapon that was produced in a lab and released to hurt us. So that
Mm.
spike protein, when you talk to people that got sick and say it's 2 weeks and they got over it, but the lingering effects of it, the almost like
Like long
mono,
COVID.
Epstein-Barr, the long COVID, or just, I if I get sick, I want to make it go away in a day, right? I want it gone as quickly as possible. So I would
Right.
talk to friends that said, "Yeah, I had COVID a couple weeks ago." I'm like, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" Well, I took some stuff and we were fine. It only took 2 weeks. I'm like, 2 weeks? That's an eternity. if I hit day two and I'm not feeling significantly better, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like I'm aggressive about stopping. Like I immediately, if I
That's
wake up and
good.
have
Yeah.
scratchy throat where I'm like, and I don't have allergies, I'm like, I take 24 of ivermectin, I take 200 of hydroxychloroquine and zero point 0.6 of colchicine, period, without apology. Not because I'm afraid. I'm not worried. I'm just like, they're good for
Hmm.
any type viral type of illness. And I
Hmm.
ramp up my vitamin D and C and zinc. So
Wait,
that's why I recommend people be, it's not what was the mortality toll. It's what is the morbidity toll? What's the sickness toll? Or, it's like the amount of time lost
I
from
see what you
work or
mean.
lost
Yeah.
from activity.
Yeah. It's just good to know how your mind works. Yeah. Like, cause you're looking for, all right, let's deal with the problem. Okay. There's a problem. You got symptoms and let's fix that. Which I don't know, to me, you're doing your job, right? Like that's what it's all about, right? Like, okay, well let's go to number four though. Like, okay, so what consequences? Like, talk about the consequences. Like, okay, so you took your position, and then the government's like, oh, okay, now we got to deal with Scott, right? Because he's not going to listen to us. That's what they're thinking. So it's like, what do we have to? I'm sure I can just imagine what they said, right? It's like, we're right, he's wrong. Okay, how can we go about this league? Because this is what these people do, right? And then they figure out what they can do legally to you. That's what they do. And then it's a game. I call it like it's not a game, but it is. It's people's lives, but but then there's a countering force to that too, right? Because you have those rights too. Like you have the right to get legal counsel and to oppose these things, but man, like the government officials just all like this was like a coordinated, and I don't think a lot of them even knew. I think some of them do, but I think most of them just were compliant, like good soldiers, toe the party line kind of mentality. They didn't understand anything about this. They just did what they were told. That's what I think happened. Anyone that actually somewhat understood what's going on, like because you're accountable for what you know. So like you had an issue with it because your conscience said there's something not right here. So you responded to me in the right way. That's the right thing to do. Not that you have all the answers, and it's just but like you weren't going to just be like, yes, sir, right? And then just push it out on people, just like a lot of people did. But anyway, comment on that. Like, yeah, like, so what happened? Like, what did they do to you? Like, just, yeah,
So I
yeah.
spoke out in Olympia at our Capitol in May of 2020. Um, and by August, I had a complaint against me that said I had felony charges in California, where I had lived prior to moving up to Washington State. And because of the felony charges, I immediately applied for a Washington medical license. And on the license, I lied and said that there was no investigation. So I obtained my medical license for Washington in a fraudulent manner. Now, I got that complaint sent to me and was told they were going to investigate it, which they didn't. And then a few weeks later, I got something called a letter of cooperation asking me to, respond to the allegations. And I was actually laughing about it. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, of course I didn't lie. So I had my office manager send in the documents, and I'm like,
Like,
the letter, we're good, done. They'll look at that and say, here's his yes answer, here's his explanation, and we're good to go.
like,
That didn't happen. They sent another letter saying they needed more information. I'm like, there's no more information to provide. So I wrote another letter, sent it in, everything
hmm.
status quo. Then in February, I get another letter from them asking about am I in on, uh, not parole, is there anything pending in California, the county that I lived in? And I'm like, I don't know. How are they coming? My mind is reeling now. I'm like,
Hmm.
what is going on? So my wife calls. So Shelly calls Tulare County, and sheriff's department. It was a different Scott Miller.
Oh, really? Wow.
Obviously, like
Yeah.
1992, 19 years old in Berrien Springs, Michigan, in undergrad, right? Like,
They
how can
still
I?
tried that on you. Yeah, they still tried it, right?
Right.
They tried it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, okay, we send that in. We're good. Now, 2 months later, I ended up speaking at a school board meeting, just not realizing how politicized they were. And I
Yeah.
was kind of railing against, it's like there's kids outside wearing masks on the playground. This is insane. I'm just the
Yeah. I
mental
remember.
health crisis that I'm seeing. And I said, there's treatments. There's treatments. I've been treating people with COVID all the time. I've seen 90 this month, and it was like the 10th. And here's my downfall of this. There's treatments, ivermectin, vitamin D, or ivermectin. There's
Okay.
treatments. Ivermectin cures vitamin D, vitamin C, and the minute I said cures instead of, because you don't cure it, you treat the symptoms, but I said cures, and I
Oh, okay.
didn't think anything of it until like 2 days later. An article came out, says local pediatrician rails again, calls school board either ignorant or pure evil, and that he cures COVID. Uh-oh.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's great. You're telling the story in this way. That's excellent because see, they're watching every single word you use, and they're looking for any fault, any tiny slightest error, and they're going to blast it all over the media. This is how enemies use things against you. It happens all the time. Like political enemies too. They're always doing this to each other, right? Whatever. Well, yeah, you used one word. Okay, yeah, like you said that and it's sort of like it's understanding the intent behind the context of the conversation too, and then, but of course, yeah, when they decide to run a piece, I don't know, they run a piece, right?
And then they have all of this little small group of, I'll just call it the progressive community, starts writing in. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I
of course.
so many complaints. And one of their questions, there was a question, have you prescribed ivermectin to diagnose COVID? And I'm like, no, because right, that's a dumb question,
That is a I even yeah, that doesn't even
right?
make sense.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
have you ever told your patients that ivermectin cures COVID? And I wrote no. And the state was basically said, well, we have proof that you tell your patients that it does cure based on
I
the
see what
school
they did.
board
Yeah.
meeting. And I'm like, no,
30,
that's not what I tell
30.
my patients, because I've never said to my patients that it cures. If I did,
Yeah.
then I wouldn't have to prescribe anything else.
Scott, you're an honest. Like, I appreciate your honesty, right? Like, I think, yeah, like the way you tell a story, it's honest, it's true, truthful, and they just don't know how to deal with you, right? Like, that's they're.
Yeah,
I know how enemies work very well. Um, it's yeah, like because I mean they're trying to use the system against you, whatever they can do to destroy you, right?
yeah.
Because they see themselves as on like you're an enemy of the government, right? When it's like, no, actually he's not. He just has a different take. He's licensed to practice medicine, and just because he doesn't support government mandated protocols, like this stuff should have never happened, and ever. And man,
Well,
when the
they saw themselves as the protector of the
I
people,
know,
and
I know,
there
yeah,
was there's a
yeah,
statement made that
100%,
my utterances, think about how insane
yeah,
this is, that my utterances were of such danger, that what I was saying to the community, et cetera,
yeah,
that they were of such danger that it undermined all of the defenses that the state of Washington had put in place to protect the very people that I was harming. Like,
it's
that's a fun
absolutely.
state. Like,
And the irony of it all is that they're the very ones that are guilty of the thing that they're accusing you. It's just the the level of I don't know how you call it, the paradox, the irony of it all. I understand, see, because if you want to deceive, if just say you want to destroy a people, right? If you get the leadership on board, if you deceive them, you got it. Because like then you roll it out into the system into the public domain because you have to conquer, you have to govern the minds of the leaders first. Like this is getting into all the heavier stuff, but I don't need to go there with that. But I mean, basically that's how it works. Like if I want to control a society, you have to win over the leaders first, and you have to get them on board. So then people like you're the enemy. This is what happened, right? This is what happens all the time. And like, but the
well,
interesting,
and the other thing with that, once these complaints become, and I asked a question to to the investigator. I said, I don't understand why there's such a pushback on me. And they said, well, I said, the complaints have there's no veracity to the complaints. There's nothing,
Yeah.
you can look at them and you can see there's no substance. And the response was, well, it's due to the sheer number of complaints. I mean, but if every
Okay.
complaint said that, like, pick a thing, said that he's like burning buildings down, and it's like,
Mhm.
there's no evidence of me burning anything, but they complained that you were, like, that's the mindset they're using because of the sheer
Mhm.
volume of complaints. And it was interesting because they kept coming and coming to the point where the state in, I think, July of 2021 offered a stipulation to me where I would pay them $30,000 because of the time they spent investigating me and like doing these like kind of remediation, so I knew what evidence-based medicine was, and I knew what standard of care was.
They wanted
And
to talk to you about that, about what
that's,
evidence-based medicine is.
yeah, so I would have had to sign this
Yeah.
document, and it was at that point where I thought I need an attorney, because I'd been doing this because it all seems
Yeah.
so insane or inane and idiotic. I was so busy managing my pediatric practice, and I mean, the people calling in were so sick. And, I would leave clinic and I'd go from home to home to home, walking in, these people that had been sent home from the hospital and said, like, turned away by the ER and said, come back when you're like truly dying.
Yeah.
And so I would just drive to their homes and take care of them and they'd be better. And so I didn't really think about the consequences of what the state was trying to do. I was just trying to do my
Well, you
job,
didn't
and
think they would turn on you the way that they did, right? I mean,
I
they
didn't think they were going to do an emergency suspension. I thought that there'd be some factual component that would at least protect me
so
from that kind of insanity.
like okay, but prior to COVID, you weren't getting complaints against you until you started to speak out against COVID. Is that correct? Would that be a correct thing?
Correct. And not a
Yeah.
single
So
patient.
okay. So to me, if I was, I mean, right then and there, that says a lot, right? If he had, I don't know how many years you've been, but if he had like a, just say 10, 15 years of a clean, good practice, and then all of a sudden Scott decides to speak out against COVID and the complaints keep rolling in. I mean, come on, guys, like this is pretty, all right, he doesn't agree with the government mandated protocols. Like that should be your freedom. Like it's your freedom, it's your practice. It's as long as if you're helping the patients and they're actually recovering, that should be evidence enough for them to back off and to leave you alone. Like now, if you were like your patients were getting worse, like
No, okay, here's we'll go back to it, and they knew that wasn't the problem. One of the Another significant threat to the state was my utterances also, or the because of the me espousing there being uh effective treatments. My words made people leery of getting the shot, which was at
which is
still it's
good. Good. Yeah, you
right.
should be. Yeah.
Or I was
Yeah.
writing vaccine medical exemptions from the COVID shot. I mean, they looked at all of that as a
Mhm.
huge detriment to not just my patients, but because of their engagement with society, I was causing severe increased risk of harm to society because of my
Mhm.
stance on. And my stance was simply, we don't have any scientific data on it. I mean, like, as far as like 2, 3, 4 year, risk,
Right.
benefit risk, we don't have enough information for me to be able to give informed consent. So at least, if nothing else, I would have to be neutral on it. If nothing
Yeah,
else,
I agree.
right? So
Yeah, I mean,
I can't encourage somebody to take something. And when it's super easy to treat, especially early on, I can't advise somebody to get something that I have no knowledge about its safety profile, when I know that if they get sick, I'll just treat them and they'll be fine.
it, it's unbelievable. Have you read the book Turtles All the Way Down? Have you read that book? I
No,
don't know if you haven't heard of that. Okay. Yeah,
I've heard I've
the
heard the name.
authors
Haven't
want to
read
remain anonymous for good reason because if you go public with it's an excellent book. I read it. It's all about just kind of like what was done and not done with, if you want to call it vaccine or injection research, and how they actually, uh, like the placebo, what the actual placebo is, even though it's not really actually an inert substance. Like all this stuff that I thought, like the House of Cards has fallen apart for me because I've done a lot of reading, and it's like it just blows my mind, like how the system really actually works. With they put on a good front. Oh yes. Oh, 100%. And I hate to say it, but at the end of the day, like you actually are, I feel you genuinely care about the health and well-being of your patients. When I would say the majority of the medical system, it's about the almighty dollar at the end of the day, with the illusion like of the health and safety. It's all under the pretext of health and safety for patient care. But
Well, and that's why having that hearing, having colleagues that I both took care of and helped. They would call if they weren't sure how to manage an acutely ill patient. When they're telling the stories about their engagement in an interaction, that was one of the things that was said ubiquitously, um, with everyone. It didn't, day or night, it didn't matter. If we called him at 4 a.m, he answered the phone. If we called it, if he was if he was on a boat in the middle of the river at 3 a.m. and we called, he'd answer the phone. He never didn't answer the phone. He never didn't reach out and help. Like there was no person that he turned away. And it's because I know the potential negative if I turn somebody or miss a call and they end up in the hospital. It was really hard to get them out. I was able to get a few hundred people out of the hospital, but that takes a lot of effort. It really does take time and effort to get them out of the ICU or off a ventilator. If I can't be there,
yeah,
like I have to manipulate a lot of systems to get somebody off a ventilator.
I've heard the stories about that stuff too. It just, what makes me really sad is that the people in charge, it's sort of like it's like they didn't consult their team, man. It's like before you actually make this dictatorial, this is the position we're taking, like I call it a dictatorial health fascist thing. Like, why don't you consult a team of people that actually maybe have a little bit of a different view? Now, I actually find this very helpful to before you make a decision to have, okay, let's hear the counter. And then I like, as long as it's respectful counter, I love that because it really challenges the way you think. Okay, so why do you think these are good or whatever? Tell me, show me the work, or whatever it is that you have to do, and then let's before
But you
making
couldn't
the.
do, you couldn't do that in this situation,
No,
or
I
I know
know.
what you're
Yeah,
saying because this is what they
yeah.
would say. But I would do a consult with, or I'd be asked to advocate for somebody whose loved one is in the ICU and they're going downhill and they're on oxygen
Yeah.
and a steroid, dexamethasone, right? And I would say, well, can't you like change the steroid and increase it to something like if they had asthma? Well, we can't. Like asthma is asthma. This is COVID. This is the only thing we can use. And I'm like, well, I respectfully disagree. In my experience, and I've seen this directly, like, well, we can't do it. So because of their rigid protocol. So you couldn't even have that kind of
Yeah.
professional intellectual discourse because you weren't talking to their knowledge base, you weren't talking to their experience, to what their training is. You're talking to, we can't because of this protocol. It took a lot to manipulate doctors to move off of that, to change the care. And when they did, pretty much across the board, all those patients lived and went home. For the doctors that wouldn't change it at all, they all died.
Hmm. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I do have a lot of respect for doctors like yourself. It's
Yeah.
just to me, you're the doctors that. Well, I mean, I respect what you have to say because you sacrificed, and of course, so ultimately they took your medical license away, right? So at the end of the day, you lost that. So that's your livelihood, right? And then basically, once you lose that, you're not allowed to practice medicine, which means they hit you financially, right? I mean, that's what they did to you, right?
Yeah, and then having to have, 3 attorneys for 2 years. So I did a
Yeah,
bunch of
yeah.
integrative health practitioner certifications, so I could at least say things. Like I couldn't like
Okay.
diagnose or treat, but I had amassed what people would consider a vast knowledge base in medicine across multiple systems. And
Okay.
so I started a wellness practice, health coaching. And I let the state know.
Okay.
I sent them my
Okay.
certification, so they knew about that. Um, they came after me more aggressively with that
Yeah,
than
because they want to ruin you financially, right?
yeah. So they came after me for that,
Yeah.
and to the degree where they it was so of all of the corruption, this was the most corrupt part that they did through 2022
Hmm.
and 2023. They accused me of because of my website that I was practicing medicine without a license, a couple other things. They sent all the document. They removed me from their electronic communication, which we had been doing for
Yeah.
4 years. They removed me from the electronic communication and started sending packets to my old office address. So I wasn't receiving anything.
Hmm.
So,
I mean,
like,
what's your website, Scott? I'm sorry. Like, it's
well,
it's still up and
with
running, or is it not? Is it? It's
it's
okay if
it's
it's.
it's semi. It's Miller Wellness .net.
Oh, I'll make sure it's right. Yeah. Yeah. No, sometimes it's hard. I know you got a lot of
Yeah,
stuff in there,
yeah. So
so
we ended up. It got to the point where because they did that and they said I didn't respond, that like almost tacitly because of that, I was unrehabilitatable, and they did a permanent revocation of my license and then did
yeah.
determine in fact that I was practicing without a license, which was a misdemeanor with fine. And if it happened again, it was $10,000 and 5 years in jail. So our attorneys called me up and they're like, you have to leave the state like as quickly as possible. They will put you in jail. And at that point I was like, yep, I know. So we had to go
Hmm.
dark. I had to shut
Wow.
down. Yeah. So we and there's the bank. I mean, we didn't. I didn't lose anyone in my family. I didn't lose anyone in my immediate circle or even extended circle. So I am just absolutely grateful for that. But from a what you'd call a material aspect, yeah, we
Yeah. No, I get it, man. Yeah, you paid a
everything.
big price. I get it. Yeah, because I mean, a guy like you makes a lot of money, and you worked hard I understand that. Yeah, so you paid a heavy financial price, and but you know what? To me, in my world, and what I believe will happen, that only increased to me, like the reward to come, because like to me, you did it for the right reason, and it's like okay, like you know what, like you're a believer. I can talk about Job, and of course Job went through hell,
Mhm.
but sometimes, like we fail to. There are seasons where you will go through very difficult times for doing what's right, and it doesn't. But that's not forgotten. Like just remember that's not forgotten. Like and
Well, and it's
yes,
not a
like
woe
it's
be me. I'm not like, oh, boo. I went in, I got to a point where I considered that tipping point, the
yeah,
all there was an all or none point in
yeah,
2021. And my wife and I had a conversation about it, and I was so burned out. I mean, I hadn't had a day off in months. I mean, I would go 3 days without sleep. She would knock me out for 4 hours, and then I'd do another, 50 to 70 hour stint. She would knock me out for a few hours, and it just never ended. There's the
yeah.
amount of need never stopped. And so I remember my office manager Carrie had called my wife Shelly, and they're like, "This is too. It's insane. Like this is Scott can't keep doing this, and it's getting a little dangerous." And so Shelly and I had a discussion about it, and I said, "Listen, I didn't pick this. I don't want to do this. It's just like,
Yeah, your conscience won't let
well,
you.
no." I asked God. I had to ask her early on, like, Lord, like going to Olympia. Like, am I gonna? And I decided I'm not gonna go to Olympia. Like, the only way I'm going is if somebody like shows up at 5 in the morning and drives me there. I'm not gonna get up at 5 in the morning on a Saturday and drive to Olympia.
Yeah,
And I was like, Lord, if you want me to go, and you can send somebody, but I'm out. And about 5:15 the next morning, there's a knock at the door. I get up and I open it, and there's two ladies standing there saying, "Hey, we heard you need a ride to Olympia." And
oh wow, yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
really? Like, I was kidding, dude. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. It wasn't what you were looking for. Yeah.
No. And I just left a sticky note. I said, somebody showed up, for Shelly on the fridge. And that just, it happened. And this was another one of those things where it's not like me thinking like, hey, Scott,
Oh,
you can do all this. Everything was so Holy Spirit driven and God led. And that night I prayed about it. And I'm like, Lord, you have the power to shut our phones off from all these calls. You
yeah.
let me know because there's chaos in my nuclear
Yeah,
sphere. I got
for
got
sure.
to my office the next day. I'm coming in the side door, and my office manager, meets me. She's like, "What did you do?" Like, I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Did you post something? Did you do an interview?" I'm like, "What? No." I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "The phones have been ringing off the hook since 8 a.m. We have," and I was like, "Well," and I told her the story about Shelly's and my discussion and praying for, like the Lord can shut the phones off. And she just looked at me and she said, "Well, then we've got some work to do." She's like just such an unbelievable. I mean, talk about being surrounded by Esther's, my front
Yeah.
office and
Yeah, good
my
people.
office
Yeah.
mentor, just amazing women of God. Otherwise, no, we couldn't have accomplished what we did. But anyway, so
Like what did you do? Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
so
Oh
in
yeah.
this,
Like
but
it's
anyway, I know
busy.
we're past time. But listen, the book, it's I know like with the interview, some of these things don't sound very like interesting or thrilling, but it really
Oh,
the,
it's
this
it's no, your voice needs to be heard too. It it's important. Like it's important. Yeah, I mean the book's good. Like because I think it gives people anyone that it's for anyone that's looking for on the path of truth, right? Like you're one of the people, right? Like it's good to understand your story. I think government officials they are in deep trouble. That's they laugh, right? But it's like, no, you like to me, what they've done all across the West, like it was an abomination. And there's a day that it's coming. It's coming. Like the generations coming up, at the very like least, they'll see it for what it is. I believe that the day will come. The day will
well,
come
and I
when
want to say it's not a it's this isn't an information driven book or a statistics or data driven book. It really is it's stories. And I'd have friends like text me or call me. They're like, "Thanks a lot." I started reading it. This- And I just like I was going to stop at chapter 5, and it's like I get a text at 4 in the morning. Just
that's
finished your
fine.
book, and
Yeah,
I'm like, really? So it's not I would say
it's your experience.
it
Like,
is, but I think it's also like Shelley's experience, like talking about family and how we like the challenges that we had to go through, and then how we would
mhm.
reconcile these things. So it's very, I've had people say it's like a marriage book. It's like it's like a
Yeah.
it's all in one because she and I went through it together, and she was supportive, which is crazy. The faith and courage that Shelley has
Yeah.
and helping me. So I think it hits on a lot of different levels.
Oh, that's great, Scott. No, I think it's good. It's good we had this conversation. I mean, let's basically 6 and 7 we kind of covered that. Like, I mean, of course, where people can find you online is on Facebook predominantly, right? Is kind of like
Yeah.
where you're at. Yeah, and that's fine. But like number 5, I think will be our wrap up question because we talked about your book, which is number 6, and yeah, it's just like, okay, we talked a little bit about the science, but we don't need to go too heavy into that because I think anyone that's kind of like on our wavelength knows that it was very shady at best. And like I agree with you. It's more of a bioweapon. I think it's you go into population reduction under the pretext of health and safety. It's quite effective, right? You know, I hate to
Mhm.
laugh about that, but it's a terrible thing. But I believe that people will hold governments accountable for what they've done. Like there's Macus up here, and I don't know if you know Dr. Macus. He's well like a cancer good doctor, right? He's done a lot of. He's been speaking out for a long time, holding the Alberta government here accountable for all kinds of different stuff, right? He's kind of a real thorn in their side. They don't know how to handle him, but he does a lot of good work. Um, But you are too, right? And it's good to have you up in Alaska. They're kind of, this is still something that needs to be looked at. But at the end of the day, like what advice, like what do you actually endorse? Like what do you recommend? And what do you want to give like advice to the young families across the world, like regarding like injecting their young ones? Like what do you say about it? Like what's your take?
I'll I'll start with the COVID, injection or
Yeah,
anything anything new mRNA platformed. Um, I
you'd say no.
I would if they were coming for my son and daughter, they would have to come, like over my dead body.
Okay. Yeah. And that's how yeah, I would look at it as if it were your own
Clear that
kids. Yeah. Over your dead
it's just
body. Okay.
it,
So
it,
that's coming from a
we
pediatrician. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, that's good. That's okay. Yeah. So any of the mRNA thing. Okay. And that's fine, right? We can leave it at that. And like, just for protocols in general, when people are having symptoms, like,
so let me go. I'm going to
yeah,
go back from a
sure.
pediatric standpoint. There's no need to give a newborn Hep B. There's no need to give a 2-month-old, you know, H influenza,
Yeah.
Hep B, pneumococcal, rota. There's no need for that. They don't even have their own immune system yet. So now you're injecting things and they don't have the ability to deal with it. So so at 4 months, let's go with say like the Dr. Paul Thomas, you know,
Mhm.
vaccine safety, kind of book. And I
Yeah.
don't have it memorized, but it's like do
Yeah.
one. Like if you're gonna do it, if you feel like then do one and then wait a while. I wouldn't do it at 4 months. I'd like, but like if you feel, because
Yeah.
I
You're
don't
not, you're kind of,
know what I am anymore. I just know that our children will never get another even standard vaccine.
yeah,
And if I
I'm
was
with you.
practicing,
Yeah.
I would encourage parents if they said, "Well, no, we're good. This is how we want to do it." I would say, "Okay, we'll do it." But that would be my encouragement. They don't need all of them at that age. They just don't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of with you. I'm done with this stuff. I'm a big advocate for like eating healthy, exercising, keeping your health up as best as you can, uh, without the system per se. That's my take. Like I don't, I try not to use that unless like, okay, maybe if I was blown up in battle and yeah, okay, good. But other than that, yeah, I just try to stay on that organic path, if you will, as best as I can, right? Like again, I don't get too worried. But anyway, Scott, like I want to thank you for your time. Like thanks for the conversation. Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. But I if there's anything else you really feel like you need to get out there before we wrap it up, please do so. Again, you can find them on Facebook, and I'll throw out the link to your website too, so people can look you up. And I do appreciate what you do, what you've done.
Okay,
And of course,
on the website. Sorry for just so I don't
no,
forget.
it's
On the
fine.
website,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
all
have to
good.
fix that. I had to put a wall up, a monetary wall, because I put out I put out videos of all of the protocols that I use, how I
Yeah.
like what nebulizing is, how I nebulize, how I put together the different nebulizing solutions, because
Okay.
I had quite a few different concoctions. I mean, basically, I made videos of what I would do, what I've done for what I have done for the sickest human beings I've ever seen without having the option for supplemental oxygen, where I had to just rely on either like the combination of nebulizing and you know,
Okay. But this
oral
is your thing,
medication.
like, yeah, you're into LifeWave patches too, right? Like this is your oh, yeah, it's not really showing up that well
Yeah,
on the
and
phone.
that's more for like long-term healing. I mean, for
Yeah, no,
just
I'm just gonna make sure it's there, and if people want to
yeah,
look into what you're
that
doing, I mean,
that video is. I think that section is called like how to survive. And this is again at a time where people were, I mean, every
yeah,
call I got was somebody was in the hospital. So that's why I set that up so people they could go on there and
yeah,
watch the videos. I'm like, oh, here we go. It's
it,
like this is what
it's
Sandler did
yeah,
to treat 5,000 people.
yeah, it's your work. It's yeah, it's your work, and that's yeah, I'm good with that. So like yeah, uh, like I say, God be the judge at the end of the day. That's but I believe in having in a good society, to me, like we would actually like continuously learn and grow off each other instead of trying to destroy each other. And, I found one thing wrong with this guy, so you throw everything out, right? And he's terrible. That is, see, this is the problem with our world today, is that when we become adults, like it's like people are making mistakes all the time. I don't care who you are. It just, but part of evolving, if you will, is you when you are in error about something, um, yeah, and you can clearly see it, and it's sound and true, and then you adjust accordingly is what it should be like. But it's sadly it's not the case, and government is just, oh, they can do no wrong, right? So which only
Mhm.
makes it worse. It only makes it worse in the end. It really does, because there's no system in place. Like if it was up to me, I'd create a system where as information is coming in, like how do we correct? Like and you could create a whole legal system about how that's done. But anyway, that's for another discussion. But
Again, the biggest thing with all of that is they're they weren't trying to self-correct. They were trying to self
no, that's right.
steer as
Yeah,
far away from truth as possible. The correct
yeah,
thing they were trying to do was to suppress the actual truth and steer as many people along into
yeah.
that chasm with them.
Yeah, I call it cattle management. Yeah, like under the pretext of health and safety, of course. But yeah, and people don't like it. Oh, I call them cattle. Yeah, I mean that's basically how they view the masses, right? So hey, man, I'm right there too, right? But I just kind of a little bit more aware of what's going on. So okay, well, Scott, thanks for your time, man.
Thank
It
you.
was a good conversation. I'll throw out the link, and I'll throw in the link to Turtles All the Way Down. It's a good book. It's a good read.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, I think these discussions need to be happening. This whole injectable holy water narrative has got to be destroyed. It's no longer it's not right. It's like a religion, and it's become a medical religion, and they hate it when you use that, but it's exactly what it is. It's
It's what I
exactly
call
what it is. Yeah, it's
I
your belief
really call
system.
it religion.
They say, "Oh no, it's science." No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. It's there's a little bit there, but like no, it's a religion. It's a belief system. So yeah. Anyway, okay, thanks, Scott. Thanks for your time, man. I'll get this up right away, and yeah, like keep doing you, man, and yeah, like God's with your work too, and thanks for doing what you do, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And hey, get the book too. It's
I
good.
had the book. I ordered it. Yeah, I got it off
Oh,
Amazon. Yeah, and
yeah,
yeah,
you're
no, I recommend reading Scott's work, support him, and yeah, open your mind. Just have an open mind. You know, it's that's as simple as that. Take care. Yeah, see you later,
thanks so
Scott.
much for your time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.